10 reasons why the property market won't crash. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this article written by Michael Yardney. 10 reasons why a property market won't crash. Now, Michael is a property guy. He's well known as being a property bull, and he puts it out there. This is his shtick in many ways. Nothing wrong with that. We just have to realize that that's where he's coming from. Now, here's the thing. With property in Australia, it's part of our culture. It's a big thing. There's a lot of people hoping for a crash, desperate for a crash and correction in the market, as they see it as their only hope of getting in, which makes a lot of sense because property is utterly insane in the prices that people are asking for at the moment and what they're actually getting. Even here in Brisbane, recently, a 40% increase in property. Just wait for 5 years' time when all the Brisbane property gurus start publishing their courses. But here's the thing, guys. You want to get both sides of the argument. The danger with social media, and particularly with the algorithms from YouTube and Facebook, is that they'll provide you content that you want to watch. You'll notice that your recommended views on YouTube, it's more to do with the most recent content that you watch than with who you're subscribed to. So if you start going down a tangent of doomer news, negative economic news, you'll get more of that stuff put onto you. So you might start to think this is everything that's happening. Your whole, your worldview or your perspective is biased or warped because you're only consuming one source of news or one, so we say, typology of news. And negative news, doomer news, economic collapse news, property crash news, it gets the views, guys. It gets the attention. People want to see it. And that's what the algorithm feeds out there. So you need to make sure you make a conscious effort to at least look at both sides so you can, piece together what's happening here. And we also have to realize is that you can make all these predictions about, the market's going to say this or this will happen, but then the government can come in and change the rules. We had our first recession in 28 years, everyone. And the government, they changed the rules. Let's just show some examples for those of you that may not remember. I mean, the cash rate, that's not really the government, but still the RBA, they dropped it from the emergency level of 3% down to 0.1%. You had home builder, guys. Remember that? All the money that was pumping up. We saw a huge spike in the number of building approvals. You had first home grants, 88 grand, now 200 grand. 200 grand in Tassie will own part of your house. Who would have thought that would happen? Who would have thought that would ever happen here in Australia 10, 15 years ago? Government guarantees for 5 and 2%. 5 and 2% home loans. Just think about that. 2% on $1 million, guys. And then we've got negative gearing, that's part of our culture. And super withdrawals, where, I can't blame people for using that. But there's a few other things that I want to, have a look at. Now, not those ones. Here, we'll jump here. Here we go. Keeping the zombie companies alive, trading while insolvent. Now, when they did this, when they changed these rules, this literally is coming in and changing the rules. This one scared the shit out of me more than anything else. Because I've had to chase people that haven't paid me. I've been pretty fortunate. I've only had 2 that have stiffed me serious amounts in nearly 10 years of business, which is pretty good. But we're starting to see now, arguments that 50% of builders are running at a loss. How many of them are trading while insolvent now? How many of them got into a mess when the government changed the rules and now it's only starting to materialize? Because they string these projects on. So yeah, they can change the rules, guys. So this is the thing. Whenever you see any predictions in the media, in news and social media, we just have to keep that at the back of our minds. And is it fair? No. Fairness is an idea for children. So anyway, let's have a look at what Yardney has to say about this. So, the property market is going to crash. How many times have we heard that one recently? Well, just do a search on my channel for crash and you'll see all of the articles that have gone through. 2021 was a year like no other. Prices boomed, creating new records as the value of Australia's housing market skyrocketed. The collective wealth of homeowners jumped by more than $2 trillion despite the pandemic. Yeah, it seems insane. And the problem is, the real problem with all of this is it disincentivizes people from going into business, from investing in other stuff. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? Why would you jump through all the hoops? I've got another video that I'll probably put out before this one or maybe later today. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's about an insane workplace law that you won't believe. And I just read stuff like that and I think, why are we surprised that people just want to get into property? You don't have to deal with that bullshit, guys. So, and sure, it's clear that we won't see the same level of overall price growth in 2022, but a housing market crash? I don't think so. And here are 10 reasons why. I mean, even discussions of a 15% correction is not going to be a crash. It's only going to take us back a year. We're still going to be ahead. It's not going to be what people need to get in because interest rates will go up and their ability to service a mortgage won't be there. So, number one, let's have a look. The average Australian is wealthier than ever. CBA economists estimate that during lockdowns, households socked away $230 billion in excess savings, leading to a massive war chest of cash and deposits. Not only does the average Australian have significant savings, surging property prices mean many homeowners have 30% more equity in their homes than they have 2 years ago. But that could evaporate pretty quick too. As fast as it can rise, it can go down. Combine these two things with a strongly performing superannuation and share portfolio, and the average Australian is now wealthier than ever. At the same time, Australia's total residential property market is now worth close to $10 billion, but with only $2 billion of loan owing against all residential real estate. So even if some homeowners do begin to struggle to make mortgage repayments or even default, the risk of Australia's entire residential property market is still very low. Okay, so there you go. So we're all bloody rich, guys. We're all doing real well. What this is going to highlight is the big divide in Australia. Okay, the divide between those that are doing well and those that are not is just exacerbating here. So, no sign of mortgage stress for the majority of borrowers. There's been a lot of talk about the risk of mortgage stress. Now, I'm going to bring up a definition here that I want to highlight to everyone, and I'll just do that now. This is housing stress, similar to mortgage stress, but this also includes the renters. It's typically described as low-income households that spend more than 30% of their gross income on housing costs. Okay? Low income. Because if you're at a higher level of income, even if you're spending 30%, you've got more flexibility. You've got more room to move, more skills that are in higher demand. So it's only to do with the lower income households. So there's been a lot of talk about the risk of mortgage stress. And while homeowners in some particular areas, mainly in certain areas of Sydney and Canberra, where an entry-level home represents more than 30% of an average income, the percentage of these homeowners in the market is still low. In reality, half of all homeowners have no mortgage at all. And those who do have a mortgage are well ahead in their mortgage repayments. It is estimated that a total of $1.37 billion is sitting in offset or redraw accounts. Okay. Interest rates are still low. Lower mortgage rates have been a significant driver of the property increase in prices seen over the past couple of years. But the likelihood of a cash rate increase moving forward has increased significantly. And we just saw New Zealand increase by 50 basis points. That was a big move. The RBA, they're just chilling. Since the onset of the pandemic, the Reserve Bank has provided significant economic stimulus and support and has repeatedly stated it doesn't expect conditions for a rate increase will be met until 2024. And the bank suggests that property owners could face higher mortgage repayments as early as June, as financial markets and economists warn a rapid run-up in inflation could force the Reserve Bank to lift official rates above 2% within the next 12 months. But if you think about it, even when rates do rise, it will take 5 lots of 0.25 or 25 basis points to bring them back to where they were 3 years ago. And that was minimal mortgage stress then. So he's saying even with rates going up, it's mortgage stress isn't going to be that high. Okay? Yeah. I mean, we're going to see drastic jumps in rate increases, and we're seeing it. And then some of the more exciting moves are going from a fixed of 1.99 to a fixed of 4 or 5%. That's going to be big moves. If you're in that situation, what you're going to do is you're going to find ways to reduce your costs, or you're probably going to go variable. I mean, frankly, I don't intend to go from fixed to fixed. I locked in low because I want to minimize my mortgage payments for these few years while I do my renovation. So then I'll come out of it with a house that's worth significantly more. So, but you want to talk to your own brokers there and sort that out. I should get some on the channel to talk about it, to give some advice and hints and tips for people. But I'm sure most of you viewing are on top of it. But it's all the new people that come in that might not be. So when you borrow money, so banks are conservative with stress testing loans. When you borrow money, the bank or lender has a responsibility to ensure you have the financial capacity to service mortgage repayments now and into the future. Each bank and lender has its own stress test assessment based on the bank's own appetite for risk, which is why your borrowing capacity can vary significantly from one lender to another. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of screwed with this because I've got so many kids. So, with 6 children, they think it costs a fortune to have all these children, which is complete and utter rubbish. It really doesn't. It really does not. You'd be shocked, honestly. People, I don't know. What do they spend all their money on their kids on? I guess we're just cheap, maybe. Probably the biggest expense of the dancing lessons, the dancing school that they're in, or swimming lessons. But that's kind of something that swimming lessons you find a way to pay. Particularly in Queensland, you find a way to pay for your kids because it's scary if not, and it's worth it. So that would honestly. Let me know in the comments, guys. Are there charities where people can donate to help financially support? I'm just checking the camera position here. To help financially support people that can't afford to put their kids into swimming lessons. I'll add that to my list to look up. Let me know in the comments if it exists, because that would be a good charity to support. Anyway, on top of the assessment risk, the bank will also apply certain other factors and will load your existing other loans by a buffer. They account for all your incomes, including wages and rental income, and they also include limits on all your credit cards. Yeah, that's why you just get rid of your credit cards, guys. Go the Dave Ramsey route. I mean, some people pay for houses in cash, which cool if you can. It's a flex, but maybe not be the smartest thing. But credit cards, yeah, they're poison. You don't need them. So the lender will also account for the number of financial dependents you have in your household and apply a cost of living, which is the living amount used by the bank and may not be the same as you and your households actually spend. And if you've tried to borrow money, the banks are incredibly conservative with stress testing loan applications. Oh, imagine. I mean, some people don't realize that it's really, as a small business owner, it's such a pain in the ass to get a mortgage. It is just, it was easier for my staff to get home loans than for me, which didn't make any sense. Really pissed me off too. So that means most mortgage owners who borrow over the past couple of years will be able to handle interest rate increases of 2.5 or even 3%. And those who borrow prior to these stricter requirements will have considerable equity in their properties. So number 5. Rising interest rates didn't make the market fall in the past. See, this is the advantage of Michael. He's older than us, so he remembers a time when interest rates rise because, it's been a long time. It's 2008, 2009, around the GFC. It's getting a bit hazy then now. I'm getting a bit old to remember back when rates went up. This isn't the first time we've headed towards rising interest rates. Rates have risen before and it didn't make the property market crash then, so why would it now? Interest rates rose strongly for a 6-year period from 2004 to 8, and then again from 10 to 11 after the GFC. In most of those years that interest rates rose, property values also increased. You see how a particular property performs depending on a combination of factors, of which interest rates is just one. Sure, many first home buyers have extended themselves, and they will be the most vulnerable, but they'd rather eat Maggi noodles and sell their entire contents of their property than sell up their home. Yeah, now, he's right here. He's right here. Okay, now, people will just they'll do it tough. They'll go without. And I know because I've been in that situation, guys, where we've had to really tighten the belt. And you've got to do it. Okay, you've got to do it. This is what you should do if you're in debt. If you've got a lot of credit card debt now, you should already be in. You should plan to get into this stage if you're not already. You know, beans and rice, as Dave Ramsey always says. I would suggest, mince and butter, and you don't want those carbs, guys. They'll just spike your insulin. It's not good for you. And satiate yourself. Skip a meal every other day. But people will do that. They will do what they can to hold on to their properties. It's not the same as the US. You can't do the jingle keys here. So 6, a dire supply shortage ahead. According to the latest National Housing and Finance Investment Corporation State of the Nation report, Australia could be in for a dire dwelling shortage ahead. Data shows that while housing supply may appear healthy in the short term, there is in fact a major supply crunch on the horizon. This is particularly the case as the economy and net overseas migration recovers thanks to a newly opened border. The demand for new households will outstrip supply. And such a supply shortage will act to put a floor under house price falls and only lead to increased prices going forward with no property crash in sight. Now, I did a video yesterday asking the question of should we ban foreign investment in housing? Because there's some people calling for that. A lot of viewers are really supportive of that idea. But then you've got others arguing that reducing foreign investment in housing will exacerbate the rental crisis we have because you'll have less people investing in apartment stock. Because understandably, Australians don't want to invest in apartments because just the quality is not filling anyone with confidence because of the overheating construction in the apartment sector due to the huge surge of foreign investment. But anyway, so 7, overseas migration is going to pick up. From February 21, 2022, the Australian government opened Australia's borders and welcomed double vaccinated tourists and visa holders from around the world. Eligible visa holders can come to Australia without a travel exemption or quarantining, and concessions are being granted to skilled visa holders in order to incentivize them to stay for longer. The latest overseas arrivals data from ABS shows total arrivals in Australia began rising sharply weeks earlier as international students, permanent residents, and Australian citizens are welcomed back, and those migration numbers are only expected to continue to climb. As a result, we're already seeing a pickup in demand in the rental market, once abandoned central city properties, and also the unit market. Now, this is going to be a slow increase, but it's going to happen. We're going to get back to normal. Okay, we will get back to normal. Don't worry. 8, experts routinely get it wrong. Also worth remembering that the experts who are currently predicting property markets will crash in 2023 are the same ones who have made multiple incorrect doomsday predictions over the past couple of years. Remember the debt bomb. It didn't explode. Remember the fiscal cliff. We were supposed to fall off. That didn't happen. Unfortunately, these commentators have a track record of getting their property market predictions wrong, underestimating the strength and resilience of our housing market. Well, he's right. This is the thing. But one thing you've also got to realize there, Michael, is the government loves the housing market, so the government will step in to support it and will use it as a tool to stimulate the economy, both sides of Parliament. And I don't think that's going to change at this next election. I don't think it's going to change. 9, Australia's economy is strong. Economic activity in Australia contracted sharply in late 2021 due to COVID lockdowns. This setback delayed but didn't derail the economic recovery and was underway in the first half of the year. But the RBA forecast a rapid bounce back in domestic demand in the December and March quarters as restrictions were further eased. For mid-2022, the outlook is broadly in line with the pre-Delta recovery path. Put simply, Australia's economy is recovering and it's recovering well. At the same time, Australia's income will improve thanks to renewed tourist spending as well as the Ukrainian conflict. That's because the Ukrainian conflict, thanks to the disruptions and threats to the supply of energy, industrial and agricultural commodities, and increased demand for metal-intensive defense goods, is providing a further boost to commodity prices. This is particularly good news for commodity producers like Australia and further evidence of a strongly performing economy. Number 10. Australia is on the verge of a rental crisis. Are we on the verge or are we in the middle of one, guys? Let's bring up an example here. This is Sydney rents, everyone, and I'll just refresh this from SQM. There you go. You can see how they're climbing up. Melbourne rents, again. Oh, look at the apartments there, bouncing back. Brisbane, come on. Okay, Brisbane's not loading up, but this is the one I really want to show you from Mobar in Maramba in New South Wales. Look at that climb. That's nuts. So, while the pace of house price growth has been slowing, rental growth has strengthened, with vacancy rates around the country at the lowest they've been for a long time. In fact, the nation is facing a chronic shortage of homes available for rent. Similarly, a shortage of rental apartments is also developing and will only get worse over the coming years. Opening the international borders has also put additional strain on an already tight rental market. An influx of migrants will likely affect Sydney and Melbourne, in particular since these are the most popular tourist destinations. Domain's data shows that the national vacancy rate continues to aid its downward trend, now at 1.1%, which is the lowest since Domain records began in 2017. But these new figures are evidence, yet again, that we're unlikely to see a property market crash. While rental demand is surging, the supply remains scarce, prices will only continue rising, bringing more investors back into the market. So there's really no need to lose sleep or worries about the value of your home or investment property. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting the value of properties always goes up, far from it. However, there's no crash in sight. And I mean, this is the point he's ending on about the rental crisis means that you're still going to get decent yields from your rental properties. If you look at Ireland, just before they collapsed, the yields they were getting on their properties were below what you get from government bonds. So we're nowhere near that yet, guys. So there we go. Michael Yardney's 10 reasons why a property market won't crash. Let's talk about that one. So what do you think, everyone? Just the overly optimistic opinions of someone who's completely tied up in the property market and a property bull? Or a realistic look at the actual market and cutting through a lot of the perpetual doom and news that we get? This is the thing we've got to worry about. Negative news gets the views. It gets the eyeballs. I can do a positive article, talk about something good, it'll get no traction. No one cares. And then I'll do something negative, and people go, "Why don't you ever talk about anything positive?" So what do you reckon? Let me know in the chat, guys, in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with Yardney's 10 points here? They all seem very sensible. Honestly, I think we'll see maybe a cooling in certain sectors, but if it keeps going, and particularly that international migration, if that lifts up, there's going to be that continued demand for property. We'll have to keep an eye on international student numbers. And you've got to remember, they're bodies that have a lot of political power that are calling for either keeping foreign investment in Australia, bringing international students over, and bringing migrants over. Remember, you've got the LNP in New South Wales, 200,000 new migrants, skilled migrants, because we've got worker shortages, guys. What do you reckon? We'll have to see. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I find and discuss here, there's a few ways you can help out. You can support the channel via joining us on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Or if you want to work with us as architects, we do a lot of commercial, education, and resource sector projects. Give us a call. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next episode of HeiseSays. There'll be a lot of people pissed off if property doesn't crash, guys. Remember when the end of interest-only mortgages was going to crash the market? Didn't happen, did it? Really feels like Aussie gold.